If you're watching this video, that means you have checked out our playlist where we have specific clips by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, or even by others that's addressing this Malcolm X piece. And here is another aspect that we want to introduce you to. Maybe you're watching this because you believe that the Nation of Islam, or the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, has something to do specifically as it relates to the death of Malcolm X. Or maybe you're watching it because you don't believe that we had something to do with the death of Malcolm X. So here's this article. It's titled "The Hidden Truth." Post talking about the New York Post spent millions to keep libel suit out of court. What that's talking about, the Nation of Islam, we sued the New York Post for $4,400,000,000. If I'm saying that right, yes. And it was because of their intentional distortion of the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. What do I mean by this? We're going to go down, okay? So I want you to pay attention to here. It says this. And I'm going to show you two of our attorneys who actually were involved with the actual work of dealing with this. They actually were handling this particular case. And that's the images that you see on the screen. You see Brother Attorney Arif Muhammad and also Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad. Both are attorneys. These are two of the leading attorneys. We had other attorneys that were dealing with this as well. So we want to get here, and I'm going to read. So it says, so later in the discussion, Minister Arif said, one of the critical points of this case or argument that the defense has made for nearly over a year now is predicated upon the assertion that on December 10th, 1964, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, then known as Louis X of Boston, had written an article published in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper in which he made a statement which, according to the defendants, they call a death warrant, right? And here it says, in that statement, they said the minister made in 1964, nearly 32 years ago at the time of this printing of this article, they believe they have been collaborating proof of that. They have collaborating proof of their position. But this is in fact a statement that they deliberately altered and fabricated when they take not his original statement, which they allege was made by Minister Farrakhan to be a death warrant, meaning they altered the minister's words. And in altering the minister's words, they said in their writing, in their newspaper, that Minister Farrakhan threatened and put a death warrant on the life of Malcolm X. And we're going to pull this up closer for you all to see. But it says, quote, now the defendants pull out of this article written by Minister Farrakhan, who was one of the many who were criticizing Malcolm X for his slander of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with respect to his domestic life. The minister's actual statement was that such a man as Malcolm is worthy of death, comma, and would have met with death if it were not for the confidence of Elijah Muhammad and the victories over his enemies. See here, when they wrote it, they changed the comma and made it into a period. And they put this in their newspaper and said that Minister Farrakhan threatened or put a death warrant on the life of Malcolm X. Here, they even put it in quotes. That's what makes it different. He goes further. That is the actual statement. Our defense is in their newspaper, which they spread all over America and the world. Instead of giving his statement in full, they dropped off the comma and put a period. When you put a period on something, that's saying that the statement is concluding the thought expressed in that statement. They didn't stop there. Then they put quotation marks around the part they took out to give the impression that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in December of 1964 virtually called for Malcolm to be assassinated, which he did not. Now, here is the fuller statement. Sister Ava Muhammad, she reads it. The die is set and Malcolm shall not escape, especially after such evil and foolish talk about his benefactor, Elijah Muhammad, to try and rob him of the divine glory which Allah has bestowed on him. Next sentence. Such a man as Malcolm is worthy of death. Now, this article has a comma, and I'm reading it out of Muhammad Speaks. She was reading from the exact article and from Muhammad Speaks, not the New York Post. And so they charged that he originally wrote, then they rewrote it, right? But she goes further, and she's going to read the actual statement. And let me actually find it. Comes further, and she says here, now exactly why were the minister's words altered? Let us not pass this off as if it's of no importance. How many of us know that at least one Muslim brother was murdered in connection with the slanderous written words called libel, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was deeply involved in Malcolm's death? Slander and libel led to disunity and murder. Sister Muhammad continued with the excerpt. Such a man as Malcolm is worthy of that comma and would have met with it if it had not been for Muhammad's confidence in Allah for victory over the enemies. Now, clearly, any person reading the plain meaning of the statement would understand that the minister was commenting on what the quality of Malcolm's actions were, that his behavior and slander of the messenger would make such behavior by such a man worthy of death. And actually, but in this case, as it was Malcolm, that he's saying would have met death, but the minister qualified it by pointing out that if it had not been for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's confidence in victory of Allah over the enemies. And this is important because people say this. I just dealt with somebody on Twitter talking about Minister Farrakhan threatened Malcolm X, and they quoted this. I sent them the article, but they didn't read it. But we're putting it here, so those of you all who want the truth, you can have the truth, and we'll put the link below in the comments so you can go and read this for yourself. Peace.